It's been about a month or so since the announcement of Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, and its playable teaser, Beginning Hour. The game is to be released in January 17, so it's some time before we actually get to see what the game is like, but from the information that we have so far, I asked the question, will Resident Evil 7 be any good? Well, Resident Evil just had its 20th anniversary. After 6 main games and many spin-offs, there really isn't much room for the story to grow from here. The response fans had to the over-the-top storyline of Resident Evil 6 wasn't very favourable. I mean, if you look in comparison, there was more explosions in the intro sequence of Resident Evil 6 than the entire first game, taking the ridiculous campy nature of the narrative and cranking it all the way to 11. Whether you like that or not, really, where do you go from there? The writers have cornered themselves over the last 2 decades and have no option but to bring the story back down to a more relatable nature. Another thing, it'll be hard to ignore that the rival survival horror franchise Silent Hill, which is currently being held hostage by Konami, because fuck Konami, has had their latest title Silent Hills cancelled, because fuck Konami. That has left this gap in the market for survival horror game that fans have been waiting to play since PT came out in 2014. Good on you, Capcom, you did it. Now, Resident Evil was in a similar state after Resident Evil 3 in the early 2000s, critics saying that they were getting bored of the classic survival horror mechanics and were wanting something new from the series. The developers took this on board and steered in a whole new direction, changing things up by making Resident Evil 4 different to all the games that came before it. I think that's what is happening now. They're changing things up again for the next few games, and like it or not, this is the new direction Resident Evil is going. So this is the way I'm looking at it right now. The first 3 games and the spin-offs during that time were classic survival horror, then from Resident Evil 4 onward started the more action-orientated third-person games that ends with Resident Evil 6 and Revelations 2. The next stage I can see being pure horror games in first person. I can't say any of the spin-offs will follow this direction. It all depends on the success of Resident Evil 7. I'm definitely getting a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, Wrong Turn kind of vibe from what I've seen. Like we're going to be playing some city slickers coming to this farm plantation and things are going to go very wrong and the locals are going to be less than helpful. These are really good horror movies to draw influence from, and I hope the full game can deliver on that vibe. I would most likely shit myself if I was chased around a farm by some lunatic that wants to skin me alive and wear my face as a mask. This isn't a kind of theme you see very often, if at all, in gaming, so overall, this is the most exciting thing about what I've seen so far. I can't honestly say too much about the gameplay so far, as we only have the teaser to indicate what the game will be like, and Capcom insists that the full game will be quite different from the teaser. I'm not too sure about this though. I feel like it was just a PR move, just in case the changes to Resident Evil didn't go too well with the fans. They would be able to still make changes before the game is released, but I don't know. That's just how I feel. I don't have any evidence to prove this, just more on the internet. The developers have stated this is going back to its horror roots. Never felt that Resident Evil was ever a pure horror game. It's always had this action element to them, being able to defend yourself and fight through situations you're put in. It's always been a survival horror franchise, but has never been too heavy on the horror side of things. From what I can see though, I expect the game to play very similar to games like Outlast and Alien Isolation, maybe with a few more elements of survival horror here and there. It's obviously going to be in first person, with various puzzles across the game, small amount of combat, if any at all, which will be a shame. I expect to see the Resident Evil healing system in some form, using green and red herbs, and a limited inventory system. Not too excited about the change to first person, but I don't know, they might pull it off and make the first decent survival horror game in years. Okay, let's talk playable teaser. First thing I noticed was the lack of anything Resident Evil. This can actually be mistaken for a completely different game. You could not tell if it was Resident Evil at all. The only thing linking to the franchise is the umbrella logo in the photo. Seems like an odd choice for the 7th title in a series. Although the developers have said that the teaser has nothing to do with the full game, so we can expect more Resident Evil stuff to be in the game when it's released next year. The teaser itself has next to nothing to it. kind of ends up feeling a bit like PT Lite. I'll make a full comparison video of the two playable teasers soon, but briefly, it's a fairly linear slow walk through a derelict house until you get suddenly punched in the face, with a small movie watching session in between that raises more questions than answers. Even though I don't like the teaser, it can't be denied that it has achieved exactly what Capcom wanted. That is, get attention for Resident Evil 7, drum up some positive PR for the new direction that the franchise is going, and get fans excited for the new game that is coming out next year! Capcom! Fucking nailing it! In the end, the developers are trying something new. With fans showing fatigue and frustration at the latest games that came out, their only option was to try something new, and with Silent Hills being cancelled, again fuck Konami, it seems like a smart choice to pick up the hole that was left from that cancelled game. Even the much anticipated spiritual successor, Allison Road, had been cancelled recently. What is going on? Fans are certainly looking for something in that vein, and Resident Evil 7 looks like it will be that game. Honestly, can't say if this game will be any good or not. I'm leaning towards it turning out to be good, at the least delivering on the game we have been waiting for since PT came out. It's definitely got a lot riding on it, and I'm curiously interested in what becomes of it.
Welcome to the family, son.
Thanks for watching, guys! This is the start of a series of videos about survival horror games. If you like that kind of stuff, click the click the subscribe button and stick around to see more. I'm out! See you guys next time!